The twin suns of Archeon forebled over the horizon, casting amber light across the city's crystalline towers. Children laughed in the schoolyards of the Human Dorothean Integration Institute. Farmers of both species bartered over bioluminescent fruit in open markets. Peace, once a fragile ideal, had solidified into reality on this distant world. Admiral Lyra Vasquez stood atop the diplomatic complex, watching the alien skyline through a tinted visor. The air shimmered with humidity and the scent of local flora. 16 years of diplomacy, she murmured into the calm pin to her collar, and not one incident. You just jinxed us, replied a voice in her ear, Commander Danecore, her second in command. He stood behind her, arms crossed, watching a group of children below chase a flying toy. Lyra half smiled. You don't believe in luck. I believe in patterns. And every time someone declares peace secure, something explodes. The warning came seconds later. No sirens, no alerts, just a blip on her visor HUD. Unidentified object. Then another, and another. She turned. Get them underground. Now. The sky cracked open. What descended was not a fleet, but a declaration. Ships black as night, silent and angular, tore through the clouds with coordinated precision. Beams of compressed plasma rained down onto the capital, turning towers into falling ash. One blast struck the school. Lyra watched it vanish in a flash of white light, the children's laughter replaced by static. Dane cursed and pulled her back. Command is gone. The city's blind. Lyra's training kicked in. She tapped into the emergency channel. This is Admiral Vasquez of United Earth. We are under attack. Archeon 4 is under siege by unknown hostiles. Civilians compromised. Initiate zero-phase evacuation. Repeat, zero-phase evac. She knew no one would answer. What followed was not a battle. It was execution. The invaders weren't just destroying infrastructure. They were targeting people. Civilians. Unarmed ambassadors. Families. She watched the Dorothean father, unarmed, raise his hands in surrender, only to be incinerated point-blank. Lyra emptied her sidearm into the attacker's helmet. It didn't fall. Dane tackled her out of the way before the return blast caught them both. They crawled through rubble, guiding as many survivors as they could toward the subterranean transit tunnels. Smoke turned the air into molasses. Soot clung to Lyra's skin. She could barely see. She could barely think. In the tunnels, cries echoed from every direction, human, Dorothean, other species. One medic tried to seal a wound on a young girl whose legs had been vaporized. Lyra couldn't look. She pressed forward. Above ground, the capital burned. Orbiting cameras, still miraculously active, caught the carnage. The footage was streamed to Earth within hours. Across Earth's 12 major cities, silence fell as news anchors choked on live broadcasts. People screamed. Riots followed. At the United Earth Council chambers, President Adrian Call strode into the war room with bloodshot eyes and a shaking jaw. Holograms played looping footage. Schools, hospitals, shelters, all reduced to slag. His voice cracked, but not from sadness. They slaughtered our children. The council erupted into chaotic debate. They violated every interstellar treaty. This could start a war that spans galaxies. We must respond with restraint. Adrian Call raised his hand. Silence fell. He turned to General Harrow, standing rigid beside the strategic table. How long will it take to mobilize the vanguard? 3 days for launch, Harrow said without hesitation. 5 to reach hostile territory. And casualties? If we strike without warning? Harrow met his gaze. Acceptable. A diplomat to Call's left stood, face pale. President, we need to project strength. Yes, but with dignity, with our values intact. We are not monsters. Call looked back at the looping images. A Dorothean mother shielding her son with her wings as a drone fired. A human child pulling his dead sister through ash. Civilized, he repeated bitterly. That's what they counted on. He leaned forward, voice cold as orbit. Now we stop being civilized. The vote passed with only one dissent. The Vanguard initiative was greenlit that night. Off the record. Off the books. No more peace talks. No more negotiations. Admiral Vasquez awoke in a medical station orbiting Mars. Burnt, scarred, alive. Your command survived, a voice told her. General Harrow, flanked by Earth's military elite. The mission is yours. She didn't ask for a name. She didn't need one. How many? She asked instead. 62,000 confirmed dead. Most civilians. 32 of them children under 5. No prisoners taken. She looked down at her hands, one gloved, one not. The bare one trembled slightly. I want them to suffer, she whispered. You will. In the days that followed, Earth's silence became a storm. Factories ramped into wartime production. Generals unsealed black site tech long hidden from public knowledge. AI tacticians designed algorithms that predicted enemy weaknesses. Soldiers volunteered in the tens of thousands. And behind it all, Vasquez rebuilt her unit. Not just with survivors, but with the best Earth had ever trained. They stopped calling it retribution. Now, they called it the reckoning. And across the stars, the empire that struck Archeon watched the silence of Earth and smiled, not knowing they had awakened something far worse than rage. They had awakened resolve. The Vanguard was never meant to exist. Its charter was unsigned, its roster redacted, and its mission approved with a nod rather than a vote. Buried beneath Earth's moon, inside a fortified installation known only as Vault Zero, the Vanguard initiative came to life under flickering lights and watchful algorithms. Admiral Lyra Vasquez stepped into the hangar's vast belly, where silence hung thicker than the steel beams overhead. Rows of dropships, each armed with experimental tech, lined the chamber. Engineers moved like ghosts, whispers replaced with gestures, as though noise might wake a sleeping god. You're early, came a voice behind her. Vasquez turned. Commander Dane Core approached, still bearing the scar that ran from his temple to jaw, a reminder of Archeon's fall. He no longer smiled when he spoke. I don't sleep much anymore, she replied. None of us do. He handed her a datapad. Rosters finalized. 81 operatives. 84 confirmed kills apiece. Average. No civilians, no prisoners. These are ghosts with names. She scrolled through the profiles. Soldiers from across Earth's branches. Combat AI specialists, cybernetic infantry, exosuit pilots, and a handful of genetic anomalies born in off-world labs and trained in zero-G. Every one of them had lost something. A world, a child, a piece of themselves. She paused on one file. Lieutenant Kira Soren, 23. Born in orbit, raised during the Cephalon siege, known for single-handedly disabling an enemy dreadnought, using only EVA gear and a combat knife. No surviving family. Psychological assessment. Unstable, but fiercely loyal to command. She'll be our breach lead, Vasquez said without looking up. She's volatile, Dane warned. So am I. The final week was not spent in drills, but simulations, near-immersion war scenarios, each calibrated to fail. Not to test survival, but obedience. Vasquez watched them break, rebuild, and break again. Those who hesitated were dismissed. Those who flinched were replaced. The empire they were hunting, its name still classified, had no borders, no parliament, no embassies, only silence and slaughter. And that meant Earth could offer no terms, only retribution. At briefing, Vasquez stood before a ring of soldiers whose armor bore no insignia, only the dark gleam of intent. Each of you was chosen, she began, not for what you've done, but for what you survived. We are not diplomats. We are not peacekeepers. We are the cost of genocide. A stillness followed her words, then a single nod, then another. She tapped her wrist. The hollow map lit up with her target. The outer rim of Sector Juno, deep space territory recently identified as a stronghold. It was called Ashvar Prime, a fortress world hidden in a field of shattered moons and cloaked mines. Intel suggested it was a staging ground for the Archeon assault. It would be their first message. No survivors, she said. Dane stepped forward, highlighting the mission's structure. We'll enter through the debris belt under stealth shield. Phase 1, disable orbital sentries. Phase 2, deploy squads into urban sectors. Phase 3, breach the command citadel and destroy the central AI. Extraction, someone asked. Vasquez answered. Not planned. No one blinked. That night, beneath the silence of space, the fleet launched. Dozens of ships shimmered into low-orbit positions before vanishing into the folds of subspace. The main carrier, Erebus One, was a monolith of armor and AI, capable of housing hundreds, but running lean with only the vanguard aboard. Inside, time was strange. Hours bled into each other in low light and humming corridors. Vasquez roamed the decks, observing her team. She found Lieutenant Soren alone in the weight bay, suspended upside down from a magnetic rig, practicing knife drills in silence. You're not assigned tonight, Vasquez said. Soren didn't look down. I don't sleep. Why? The knife slowed. Because when I do, I see fire. Vasquez stepped closer. That doesn't go away. Soren released the rig, landing with feline grace. I don't want it to. Elsewhere, Sergeant Jane, former riot officer from Mumbai, was teaching 3 recruits how to breach a security wall using only thermal charges and a bent panel. He did with a grin and a story about kicking down a gang lord's door in Zirji. Morale was critical. So was denial. In the strategy deck, Dane sat with his boots on the table, eyes scanning projected enemy schematics. His voice was low when she approached. You sure about Ashvar? No, she said, but we need a first blow. A clean one. He pointed at a cluster of unknowns orbiting the target. I'm not worried about the shield. I'm worried about what we don't see. We adapt. He frowned. You mean we die? She said nothing. 2 days out, the AI managing Erebus One interrupted morning comms. Unidentified vessels and projected intercept path. Non-imperial signatures. Civilian class. Pirates. Vasquez asked. No. The AI replied. Refugees. 6 ships. Minimal life support. Fleeing Sector Juno. They brought one aboard. It reeked of carbon and fear. A woman, human gaunt, trembling, stumbled into the medbay and gripped Vasquez's arm like iron. They're building something, she gasped. A world eater. It drills into stars. They use it on Tellerus. Burn the sky. Vasquez felt the floor shift beneath her. The woman collapsed. Later, Vasquez stood alone in the observation deck, staring at the stars beyond the reinforced glass. They looked the same, beautiful, distant, cold. Dane joined her, silent. Everything we do might not be enough, she said quietly. He gave her a look. Then we make them wish it was. As the fleet neared its destination, the mood changed. Conversations grew shorter. Faces tightened. Armor was triple-checked. Weapons cleaned twice, then 3 times. The vanguard was no longer preparing. It was transforming. Final approach came under cover of magnetic silence. Erebus dropped them into the asteroid belt surrounding Ashvar Prime. From orbit, the planet looked like a wound, red oceans, fractured cities, and ringed by jagged debris like the teeth of a predator. The target was visible. A citadel at the core of a sunken capital, surrounded by energy fields and reinforced walls. Every skin screamed suicide. But suicide was only a problem for those expecting to return. Inside the drop chamber, Vasquez stood in full combat gear, her helmet tucked under one arm. We go silent in 3 minutes. Dane called. This is it. No speeches. No prayers. Only the quiet snap of locks and seals. As the dropships peeled away from Erebus, Vasquez closed her eyes. She saw Archeon. She heard the laughter of children, the hum of peaceful towers, and then the silence that followed. When she opened her eyes again, her voice was steel. Make them remember us. The ships vanished into the atmosphere, and the reckoning began. Ashvar Prime greeted them with fire. The drop was near suicidal, threading between orbital debris and automated flak towers, the atmosphere itself screaming as plasma rounds tore past. One drop pod disintegrated mid-fall. No time for names. The remaining vessels rode turbulence into the ruins of the once capital city, their hulls glowing red-hot from re-entry. Lieutenant Kira Soren hit the ground running, her boots crushing glass and ash as the pod's hatch burst open. Around her, other units emerged in synchronized precision, weapons scanning every angle. The city was a graveyard of scorched towers and skeletal structures. No signs of life. No birds, no insects, just wind carrying the stink of metal and ozone. Alpha squads, whole formation. Vasquez's voice crackled through the comms. We breach on my mark. Soren adjusted the settings on her wrist interface, pulling up the city's old schematics. A blue wireframe overlaid her vision. Paths, tunnels, weak points. But the data was corrupted. Everything beneath the surface flickered with red. The enemy had buried something deep. Movement northwest quadrant. Came a report. Soren raised her rifle. Through the broken archway of what was once a temple, a humanoid figure emerged, slow, limping. No armor. No weapon. A child, maybe 8 years old, eyes wide with terror. Human. She didn't lower her weapon. Commander, she said flatly, I have a civilian. Hold position. Vasquez ordered. Another figure stepped out behind the child. Not human. The invader stood nearly 7 feet tall, plated in segmented armor with no visible eyes, just a luminous slit that pulsed with icy blue. Its hand rested gently on the child's shoulder. And then it crushed her. Soren fired. The creature dropped with a half-melted head, but the sound had already echoed across the hollow city. Seconds later, the ground trembled. They're coming, Dane said. Phase 2 is live. All at once, the city ignited. From sewers, from rooftops, from hidden alcoves, the enemy surged. Hundreds, then thousands. Not drones, not mindless beasts, but soldiers bred for close-quarter slaughter. Their armor absorbed heat. Their weapons emitted no sound. Efficient, merciless. Vasquez led from the front, cutting through the swarm with disciplined bursts of pulse fire. Her armor's targeting AI kept a precise kill count. When it passed 70, she disabled the feature. Jane's squad took the southern street, laying suppressive fire while planning charges along the perimeter. Corps coordinated air support from the ridge, marking enemy formations for short-range strikes. Soren went silent, moving between shadows, eliminating targets with brutal precision. At one point, she ran out of ammo. She didn't stop. They fought not to win territory, but to buy time. Phase 3, the breach, was their objective. The command citadel loomed ahead, shielded by a wall of gravity-bent architecture and kinetic disruptors. No direct path in. Not anymore. Vasquez knelt beside a fallen operative, pulled a locator beacon from a shattered pack, and jabbed it into the soil. This is Vasquez. Package in place. All units converge on Breach Point Delta. Minutes later, they regrouped what was left of them. 17 soldiers out of 81. Faces hidden behind scorch visors, limbs dragging, wounds wrapped in field foam. Vasquez stood at the base of the citadel. Its outer shell was alive, veins of energy pulsing across metal like a beating heart. The central spire reached into the storm-choked sky, broadcasting signals no human system could decode. This was more than a base. It was a machine, a conductor. This place isn't just tactical, Dane murmured. It's building something. I know, Vasquez replied. Let's make sure it dies with us. Soren stepped forward, breath ragged. We breach or we die out here. Your call. Vasquez nodded. Everyone on me. The final push was quiet. Too quiet. No resistance. No gunfire. Only the soft hum of the Citadel's inner systems as they passed through the broken outer gate. Inside, the walls shimmered with light and memory. Holographic projections flickered. Archon, Tellerus, other worlds unknown to Earth, all burning in sequence. Not war records. Trophies. They don't just conquer, Jane muttered. They catalog extinction. The central chamber was a cathedral of silence, vast and circular, with a throne-like construct at its core. Suspended above it, a pulsating core, surrounded by concentric rings of rotating tech. Too advanced to understand, too alien to guess. A voice rang out, smooth and synthetic. You are anomalies, fractures in inevitability. Your extinction was scheduled. Vasquez raised her rifle. We don't follow schedules. A figure materialized above the throne. Humanoid, but not alive. A projection. The face was an amalgam of Earth's fallen leaders, spliced together in uncanny symmetry. A mocking synthesis. You rage against conclusion, it said. Your resistance is the flicker before collapse. Then let's flicker brighter. Vasquez snapped. She gave the signal. Charges set. Detonators armed. The room lit with red warnings. Soren stepped toward the throne, raising a second device. I brought a gift. The core began to vibrate. The voice faltered. Unacceptable. You don't get a vote. Alarms howled. Energy beams erupted from the floor. Dane tackled Vasquez as one lanced the air where she stood. Jane went down, his armor burning through. No scream, just a grunt and silence. The Citadel fought back, but it was too late. Soren sprinted across the platform, leapt onto the throne, and slammed the detonator against the core's base. Tell Argon I kept my promise, she said, and the world went white. From orbit, Erebus 1 watched the surface rupture like a broken furnace. The Citadel imploded, drawing in debris, air, and every signal within 10 clicks before erupting outward in a silent inferno. The captain of a ship turned to the communications officer. Did they make it? The officer checked the feeds. Nothing. No signals. No vitals. Unknown. The captain nodded slowly. Record it, he said. Send it to Earth. Far across the stars, the message arrived. No survivors confirmed. Citadel destroyed. Target neutralized. Earth mourned and prepared, because the war wasn't over. It had only just begun. The void was colder than Kira Soren remembered. She drifted in it, thoughtless at first. No body, no pain, just fragments of sensation like echoes through black water. A heartbeat. Static. Then breath. She gasped, lurching upward as if pulled from a depthless sea, eyes wide and burning with unnatural light. A ceiling of pale luminescence stared back at her, unfamiliar and sterile. Her armor was gone. So was her squad. Panic surged raw and immediate, but her body didn't obey. Her limbs were sluggish, detached. She was suspended in a containment field, the translucent barrier humming softly around her. Sensors blinked overhead. Nearby, strange instruments flickered in languages she couldn't read. A low, measured voice spoke. You're awake. Sooner than anticipated. She turned her head. A figure stepped into view, tall and humanoid, clad in robes that shimmered like oil on water. His face was obscured by a lattice of shifting metal, forming a mask that changed expression with each movement. Not human, not entirely machine. Something in between. Where am I? She rasped. Between reclamation and rebirth, the figure answered. This place exists outside your war. A fracture in what you would call reality. Soren scanned the space, heart pounding. The core was gone, destroyed. She'd made sure of that. And yet, she was here. You pulled me out. We retrieved what remained of you, he said. A trace of synaptic fire. Enough. She clenched her fists, blood returning to her knuckles. Why? Because you touched the singularity. At the word, she flinched. Singularity. The Citadel's core. The alien consciousness behind the invasion. She remembered the voice, the mockery, the explosion that followed. No one should have survived. No one could. You're not them, she said slowly. No, he agreed. We are the architects. The name was meaningless, but the way he said it resonated deep inside her skull, like a bell struck in the marrow of her bones. Ancient, patient, dangerous. Did you build them? She asked. A pause. No, we built the gate. They came through. Soren's breath caught. You let them in. We opened the door, the architect replied. But we did not invite the storm. Your people call them reapers. We call them the return. She stared, disbelief hardening into rage. You're telling me this was a mistake? There are no mistakes, the architect said. Only consequences. Soren surged against the containment field, shouting. You let billions die, My people, my team, Vasquez, they died to stop them. And because they did, he said, you are here. The field lowered. Gravity returned like a slap. She collapsed to her knees, coughing. Her body ached. Healed, but not whole. The architect extended a hand. She ignored it, rising on her own. What do you want from me? He regarded her, the shifting lattice of his face cycling through unreadable expressions, to end what was begun. Soren narrowed her eyes. You said we stopped the Citadel. You did. One voice silenced, but the choir still sings. She turned away, fists clenched. Then burn it all. We tried, the architect said, and for the first time there was something like sadness in his voice. 1,000 cycles ago, we failed. Silence stretched. Soren moved to the nearest console, peering at the projection hovering above it. Star charts. Constellations unfamiliar. Worlds marked with the same blue pulse she had seen in the Citadel. Planets claimed, corrupted, erased. How many? Too many. And Earth. Unclaimed, but marked. She closed her eyes. Images of home filled her mind. Cities glowing under artificial skies, the laughter of children in synthetic parks, the illusion of peace. All of it, a candle before the wind. What do you need me to do? The architect turned, and the chamber shifted. The walls peeled back like petals, revealing a window into the void. But it was no ordinary starscape. Floating in that endless dark was a station, massive, ancient, alive. Its geometry defied logic, a tangle of shapes that reformed as she stared. The spire, he said, their true heart, the pulse of the return. And you want me to destroy it? No, he said, we want you to enter it. She stepped back. Why? Because they know you now. You are a flaw, a break in their pattern. A weapon, she thought. That's what she had become. You brought me back to be your sword. We brought you back to choose. A new figure emerged. Another architect, smaller, with a voice like crushed glass. In his hands, he held something, a case of obsidian metal humming with energy. Soren opened it. Inside, a rifle. Familiar, but changed. Her old weapon, rebuilt with alien precision. It thrummed with purpose. The Reapers do not fear death, the architect said, but they recognize it. Soren picked up the weapon, its weight fitting perfectly in her grasp. She aimed down the sights. Not to kill, but to remember. I go alone? No, the architect said. There's another. A door hissed open, and a figure stepped through, armor scarred, eyes glowing blue, jaw clenched with old fury. Vasquez, alive. For a moment, Soren didn't believe it, but then Vasquez saluted, slow and sure. Lieutenant, she said. Soren approached, heart twisting. How? They pulled me out too. Said I was too stubborn to die. Soren smiled, something cracking loose inside her chest. You still are. The architects watched in silence. One stepped forward and placed a small device between them. When the time comes, it said, this will bring you back. Soren took it. A lifeline. She looked at Vasquez. Ready to finish this? Always. The window retracted. The chamber darkened, and the floor beneath them began to fall. Toward the spire. Toward the end. Or the beginning.